Good morning, my friends. Daniel Miller here, and I welcome you all to our Destiny world. Destiny 2 Forsaken. Our world is today, and we'll carry on with Solstice of Heroes Armor grind, which is very lengthy. And as you know, we've been doing it already for a couple of weeks. And fortunately, we are coming to the end of the lengthy grind on my blue armor, so hopefully I'll get my legendary today. And I really look forward to that. It's been a lengthy battle to acquire all the bits, and I have to say, I've heard from other people that they had some difficulties with mini bosses and strikes and a few other pieces, but for myself the lengthiest battle in here has been to acquire orbs. I'm not sure as to why, but I've got everything aligned properly and the orbs are slow coming, and literally getting them by dozens every day, when in fact 1500 is required. So it's taking a long while to get those orbs, and I'm collecting them in all sorts of areas. But it looks like the orbs I generate are the only ones that register. Not sure what the issue is, but that is still going to be a lengthy one. I think I've gone probably over 1000 at the moment, so I probably have about 400. So that is going to be my priority. All the other major quests have been completed, still got a couple of bounties to complete, but that's going to be fairly fast. And also I'll need to do some patrols on Titan, so in fact this is what I'll do today. First I'll go to Titan and I'll start with those patrols. First of all, we'll talk a bit about news, Destiny and video gaming related. We've heard that one of the main producers of Anthem had departed from BioWare today, and that is really disheartening news. There are lots of speculations obviously floating about that his departure is to do with lack of success with the game and the technical problems and all that's been happening. They've just released the big, highly trumpeted Cataclysm event, and it is experiencing some difficulties, but that's just the first big event that's been launched within the last 6 months, contradicting everything that BioWare was saying. I mean, people have to be a bit more patient, because obviously the game has been released too early, and it does have a very bright and successful future for certain. I just completely want to reject all the claims coming from the Prophets of Doom. BioWare is well known for excellent games, and initially they had lots of difficulties because obviously they were trying to excel in the ways which were unknown to the developer, particularly in the area of multiplayer, and then secondly they probably had some pressures from the developer to release the game early because of the funds. It was a very expensive game to make, and it was very unwise, because you want to be testing the game up to a point where you know that is coming to its perfection, and therefore experiencing no difficulties once launched for the players. There had lots of explanations, but I think the bottom line on various public forums, inclusive of Reddit, was the biggest problem was the game engine. They've gone for the game engine that's now proprietary to Electronic Arts, and everyone thought they should have gone for an independent company in order to resolve the issues much faster if there were some. And Frostbite, which was imported from Battlefield, indeed had been seen as a game engine that produces many issues and difficulties with gameplay, not just with Anthem but other games, in addition to all the recent releases. And I think the question mark was certainly launched immediately after the demos were released, whether this was the right game engine for Anthem. In addition to that, as you know, the major problems were with slow loading, infinite loading in fact, sometimes, particularly on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, problems with logging in as being the biggest basic problems, and then we've had rubber banding, which was astonishing if you were indeed streaming the game on Twitch or Mixer, and many other in-game problems such as crashes halfway through missions, losses of data, problems with collecting certain kit, non-registration of certain achievements, and the list just goes on and on. Obviously they were trying to clock to resolve this, but with limited success. I've got the game and I'm still waiting for everything to be resolved, because at the end of the day, if you were just streaming a game through PlayStation Now services, you would say, well, fair enough, just doing a stream for myself and that's it. But if you are in a public forum doing a game for the viewers and for your participants, particularly if you're doing it like myself on different platforms, which are done through restreams, so the algorithm basically selects different platforms which are accessible and then streams. evidently it is presenting a very poor image of the game, with many difficulties experienced on the technical front, and also it is then a serious chore for the broadcaster and the community members, because people say, well, hang on, maybe that's the problem with, well, I mean, everyone knows that Anthem's having this, but lots of random viewers popping in who are not accustomed to the video game industry news, perhaps not sure on what the ins and outs of this game are. Really, they just like the look of it, and they see that there are all these problems, thinking, well, this is actually the broadcaster doesn't know what he's doing. And it's a usual complaint which you sometimes get from people who are not familiar with those kinds of issues. So therefore Anthem became a non-streaming game, literally from the word go, and that's really very disappointing, considering that Electronic Arts had another major success with Apex that indeed were promoted exclusively to the streamers, and Anthem could have benefited from that too. They should have withdrawn the game from circulation, refunded everyone, and then restarted everything from scratch. But as you know, this is obviously a major expense, and that would have created many financial burdens for the company, which in fact had serious problems, although not of this magnitude, with their latest installment of Mass Effect, called Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't really think the game is as bad as people describe it, but it was really basically digressing from the course compared to the trilogy, which indeed is one of the very best trilogies or games ever made in the RPG/sci-fi arena, a proper space opera with phenomenal quantity of class tasks and dialogue, always to be cherished by those dedicated followers. And people will be certainly disappointed and will raise question marks if things do not work out according to plan. So I think Anthem is their second major disappointment, but I'd say probably a much bigger disappointment than Mass Effect Andromeda, in view of the fact that this was to be a novel, revolutionary multiplayer in a team of forms similar to The Division 2, in fact, or The Division 1, and obviously placed in a world similar to Mass Effect universe, with similar kinds of commands, controls, and access, and therefore, just felt really like an overly ambitious project that had huge amount of potential. And I think they should have taken it step by step. They could have released beta first, they could have released some sections for people to test, and therefore if experiencing the same difficulties, they would see that the game had to be kept in quarantine for a little while before all was made to work. But they've done it completely the wrong way around. So the departure of the lead producer is indeed very much of concern. He said he was offered some other opportunities in another company. He's been with the company for 6+ years, and always had plenty of good things to say about BioWare, but I'm not sure what's happening, and I'm very sad to hear this. The other very big news is obviously we watched that wonderful Bungie broadcast a couple of days ago, where we were told about Solstice of Heroes Armor, and the fact that once we progress to Shadowkeep, the next chapter, all of that armor will then be infused to the exotic type of 2.0 level, and we'll get that perk from Banshee, and he said Bungie, from Banshee, and all that is going to be glowing in yellow. And what's very important is that the yellow armor is going to be fully customizable and will have different kinds of perks that will no longer be automated. We'll have one big energy bar and then many mods which can be adequately equipped and used according to our preferences. And basically we are going to have a fully customizable armor which will be tailored to our gaming needs, meaning maybe different characters with different types of armor and mods applied to different situations, producing the best possible results. They really want to draw people to that lengthy and arduous system of modifying, and I have to say, so far in Destiny 2 have not presented me with some degree of difference. I remember using my latest Scout Rifle and changing the mod, and then suddenly it turned out that in the Crucible, after I changed the mod, although the mod I've taken was for greater precision, it turned out to be not as good. So we need to experiment and test. I guess one of the best ways of doing it is by simply equipping the mods and taking detailed notes, in fact keeping a diary on what one is to be using, and then maybe applying them to patrolling, and then maybe to the Crucible, so you can test how certain mods will work in PvP compared to PvE. You get a very, very good experience. And, well, obviously you can go and do some strikes, but I think it's the best to test mods in an activity which appears to be, very well accustomed to, to the player's day-to-day experience. What I'm trying to say is, every gamer will know what to do in patrols and the Crucible, and therefore they will not need to be worrying whether they equip the correct mod. They can go through the motion of eliminating enemies or guardians, and they will see whether the weapon as equipped is going to be as effective as expected. It is going to be a lengthy grind, and it will require some patience and skill. I know that lots of people who are into FPS and Battle Royale will not be keen on this, but as you know, Destiny 2 is a major, massively immersive, ever-evolving world where the gamers and players worldwide are being invited to join in to participate in this development, and we can see that Bungie are taking on board all the comments and views coming from the community. They've been liberated from the pressures that were coming from Activision, the publisher, ever since they parted company in December, and therefore all we've seen this year has been very greatly appreciated by the community. People are applauding to the efforts, and indeed we really look forward to all that is to follow. So we watched with great deal of interest the presentation. They had 3 team members plus the community leader who was introducing all that is to follow in Shadowkeep, and then we've seen how the armor was to be first of all infused, or I should say upgraded, after that customized. In addition to that, how the armor was then used on 3 separate characters in various arenas when the characters were obviously battling out the enemies. It all looked very good, very much in tune with what we experienced all together in our Destiny universe. I think it will take a bit of time, and maybe the preparation for that lengthy customization process already has been triggered off by Solstice of Heroes armor, because it is very, very lengthy. And at the end of the day, this is a game where something is going to be accessible to everyone, or I should say there will be something for everyone. And if somebody doesn't want to do the packs and they do not want to do mods, that's fine. They can just, embrace those weapons and armor and then carry on as usual. And those who really want to be a bit more aligned with fine-tuning, they'll be able to do it, and therefore compete on a more professional, top-notch level. Quite interesting. It'd be quite interesting to see whether EG Course will also have some competitions, whether they will be still developing Gambit, because from what I gather, they consider Gambit and Escalation Protocol to be the pinnacle of their development. They're very, very happy with the results. And I have to say, I completely agree. The response from the community has been absolutely overwhelmingly positive. And personally, I, as a person who loves PvP, unfortunately a person who can't really play successfully due to my current internet speeds, is definitely very, very impressed with all that's been seen in those 2 activities. Escalation Protocol being the top tier PvE activity for very large teams of gamers who are defeating and attacking all those enemies repetitively. A resonance of Escalation Protocol indeed is present here in the European aerial zone, as we are doing our Solstice of Heroes armor, and you have the same degree of repetitive elements with bosses, although not within the same magnitude. And so I'd say Escalation Protocol, one of my favorite activities in Destiny, and also Gambit, which I played quite a lot during the last couple of weeks, being the part of our quest in order to get this armor, and we had a lot of fun. Honestly, it's been absolutely wonderful and quite challenging, because you've got to be thinking on how to eliminate the bosses first, how to be depositing those modes. In addition to that, when you have incursions, you need to fight against other guardians, and it is very speedy. It requires a lot of thinking, does require a good strategy, and I was obviously blessed and fortunate enough to have a team of 3 with Sekapupu and Flying Pirates, and we were able to win quite a few matches. It is all down to experience, it's down to practice, and also it's down to a cohesive teamwork. Remember that when you do random teams, you will struggle, you will have lots of difficulties. Sometimes you have top-notch solo players, but this game is all about team effort. It's got nothing to do with doing anything solo. So a cappella lovers and dedicated gamers will find it rather difficult. And I've read some reviews also in press which were indicating that some of the journalists were doing the solo effort in the multiplayer and then complaining that these are too lengthy grinds. But that's just complete nonsense. Just you need to wake up and find out that this is a team-based effort game. So you want to have, because a massive multiplayer online based entirely on a team effort. Why is it that when you're entering a strike, you get randomly thrown in with other gamers? It's just because obviously the difficulty levels and the type of gaming that we need to do is based on a team effort. So the best done in a team of 3, or indeed in a team of 6 or 8, whichever activity you're pursuing, and therefore you can have a lot of fun. And if you have a steady team or your permanent clan, then everything will be a lot easier, because first of all you'll know how your other members are going to be developing their strategies and tactics. You'll know what the other person will be doing in a certain situation. You can map out your own layout of activity, and therefore you can rely on your teammates, first of all to watch your back, secondly to conduct the final attack when it comes to the boss, and most importantly to be working as buddy-buddy in areas of res. You want to be resurrected when you're shot, and you want other teammates to be doing that consistently, so you're not losing time and always gaining strength and indeed progressing to the target, which is winning those matches. It is very competitive, it's very challenging, and therefore very, very enjoyable. And I have to say, overall, the internet speeds are not that important in Gambit. It's more down to the tactics and strategies, and therefore that section of the game is more applicable to the gamers on all platforms who are using any kind of internet speed. You will feel a difference if another gamer comes in who is doing an incursion, so basically another guardian from the opposing team, if he's on very fast speed, because you will not see him quick enough, and therefore his weapons will be more effective. You will see maybe 2 to 3 seconds earlier to what you see them. His hits will register faster. But overall, I didn't have the experience of that many incursions. You'll have maybe one person doing it rather than the whole team, and therefore it depends obviously on the opposing team. But if you come across a very experienced clan or steady crew, then indeed they may be coming in more frequently and causing you a lot more damage. But coming back to my point, Gambit and Escalation Protocol, seen by the community and the developer as probably most successful, the most well-developed, most advanced sections of Destiny. We all agree on that. We're all on the same page. And in view of this, we've had quite a lengthy re-evaluation of the year 2 done by the game director Luke Smith. So he gave us a very lengthy description a couple of days ago, which we called part 1, and I received last night his part 2. So in order to present you with all the news and his evaluation, I'll just read everything out. So we have Director Scott part 2. He says, "Hey everyone," so this is Luke Smith, the game director. The game director of Destiny 2. This is Director Scott Part 2, a now mega long update looking at the last 6 months of Destiny 2 and looking ahead to Shadowkeep, maybe a bit beyond. If you missed Part 1 and have an afternoon to yourself, go and have a look. Well, we obviously examined it in depth a couple of days ago. We read it here live online. We analysed every single section. We had some community participation. I'm wondering whether I should be running a separate review section, and it just come to my mind as obviously as I was going through the motion of reading this information, and maybe then we can schedule a proper review, and this review could be then sent to Bungie. People can actually, the development team can be reading and watching and analysing all that we are saying about the year 2, and they may be very, very interested. So it's a very good idea, quite generic. It just popped up, and this is what I will do. I think I'll do it on my Destiny 1 stream, and we'll have many viewers coming in, and then we'll talk about all that is Luke Smith news and reevaluation related. So let's have a look at the first section. That's the first section, green length. I figured this section would be the last one, but at some point Avengers wasn't going to be split into Infinity War and Endgame either, so there will be another part. So I love you 3000, he says. Looking ahead, so this is not a re-evaluation of the last year, it's basically looking at the next chapter, which is called Shadowkeep. This fall, this autumn, is a necessary first step in turning Destiny 2 into the game we always wanted it to be. So they're saying that the next step is going to be literally bringing this game to the level that was desired from 2013. So we are very excited. 6 years of waiting, or 6 years in making, we should say, and they feel that the game is coming to the level which was originally desired. It's been a busy year, so let's recap. We assumed publishing control of Destiny We know that this was in December of last year, and wanted to get something new into your hands as quickly as possible. So that all has been developed since the divorce from Activision, right? And this new section is called Shadowkeep. We've paired it with a free entry point in New Light, and that is to welcome new Guardians into the fold. New Light is a new standalone game free of charge, accessible through all platforms, cross-platform access for the veterans and the newbies to become, I guess, familiar with the way the Guardians operate today. It is primarily going to be used for bringing in new members and people who probably will see adverts and streams of Shadowkeep, and they will want to find out what this is about. And what better way to do that but by downloading the cross-platform free of charge game New Light. And as you know, this is going to be also a major test for all that is to follow within our Destiny universe, because if it turns out to be very successful with many dozens of millions of people accessing it, then indeed we'll have cross-platform access accelerated on all fronts for both of these games. And we wanted to bring Destiny 2 to new platforms to keep heading toward you can play. Just a moment. We wanted to bring Destiny 2 to new platforms to keep heading toward the You Can Play Destiny Anywhere dream, Steam and Google Stadia. So we've heard about Steam and Google Stadia already. We had taken the initial steps towards building Destiny as a single evolving world. So I keep saying this all along. This is the mission, okay? So everybody who's asking whether Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 are going to be having kind of long-term future, shelf life, longevity, whatever, keep this in mind. The mission is bringing all Destiny elements into one single evolving world. So that's the mission, and that's the mission which indeed is going to be unraveling. It is that long-term plan, which means for the next period of 3 to 6 years, and they will try to really bring in all the elements together in order to have all the characters, all the story missions and everything closely bound, so that anybody who is joining for the first time after many years will be able to find out everything about Destiny straight away. And also I think what's important to recognize is they're not focused on the monetary, they're focused on the enjoyment for the gamers and for the players worldwide. And also it's worthy of note that New Light is going to be a standalone game. I'm not sure how long this game is going to be and what volume of activity there will be for us to try, but it's a very rare attempt coming from a major publisher to present a brand new game and give it to everyone free of charge, considering it's a part of a major franchise, which indeed previously always had to be paid for. So it's also an experiment, and perhaps this is going to be turning out as a great success for Bungie. And as you know, in this industry, it is all about the number of people who are either following, liking, accessing, viewing, playing, gaming, or buying. So being able to access the game free of charge on all platforms at any time will massively increase the number of gamers and people who are interested. And I'm quite certain people who are also currently playing other massive multiplayer online games, particularly The Division 2 or Ghost Recon, may well pop in and have a look. You see, the major difference between Ghost Recon, The Division 2 and Destiny is the actual world. Although Ghost Recon and The Division, they're bordering sci-fi elements, there's still a tactical shooter, which is Rainbow Six, I should mention as well, which is based on a somewhat real life situation, although imaginary. And Destiny is a fully blown sci-fi opera. So I think, depending on player preference, some people prefer to have a more kind of in real life, realistic type of environment to a proper space opera like what we've got here. But considering we've had other space operas such as Mass Effect and Star Wars and many others, we are really talking about one of the most successful sci-fi games ever created, with the greatest number of followers, and indeed with an astonishingly vibrant and energetic, ever-evolving world, the world we participate in every single day when we enter Destiny 2. So, altogether, we need to see how all is to develop, and I'm very, very excited about it. And remember this, that the mission is basically to be taking the initial steps towards building Destiny as a single evolving world. The first steps that we are already witnessing are basically linked to cross-platform saves, and we will be able to import all the data from any platform to another. So it means if you're traveling, let's say go from the UK to the US, and your friends or your relatives have the PC, you just import everything that you would have had on your PlayStation 4 or Xbox directly to the PC, or I should say to Steam, and therefore you can play it straight away without any difficulty. And also you'll be able to access the game and the data immediately. We also want to see, as soon as possible, full cross-platform access, meaning that once you've done it, you can enter one arena where all the platforms are present, similar to what you have in Fortnite. I really look forward to that. I know that there are some people resisting it, but that is going to be absolutely astonishing, because you have so many people who are doing Destiny 1 on either Xbox or PlayStation, and they're always coming in and asking for new members and new participants, because as the game goes, as the time goes on, the number of participants in certain arenas had been depleted somewhat. And when you have everyone in one big universe, then it's very easy to find your buddy or another teammate. And I always say to everyone, don't do it solitary. Join various broadcasters, join their channels. We have many Destiny streamers worldwide. They're very in quality, but you will have certainly quite a few hundreds who are of top-notch professional quality, with excellent communities, with lots of veterans, people who are really forthcoming, helpful and friendly. Become attached to not just one, but maybe half dozen, and therefore you will have a greater choice. If you have half dozen, each one of them could be in a different time zone, meaning that any time you enter Destiny, you can find somebody to play together with you. Make yourself known, make yourself visible and present on that channel through communication, either live on air or through chat, because people recognize your user ID, they will talk to you and they will want to play with you, whenever they have time, and therefore you'll be able to build your teams with these. There's no wonder, there's no surprise that Electronic Arts and major publishers are considering streaming as the most important, the most pertinent, and the fastest way of marketing the product, because with both the top streamers as well as the small ones, you are attracting a very large number of people to a particular game, and you're coercing them into further purchases and participation. And obviously I run a small community, I run, how do I put it, I belong to the group of so-called small streamers. I run a channel here on Twitch, which is restreamed to 20 different platforms, and I have got a large community of Destiny veterans, although the volume which is considered to be present here on my channel will still come into the category of a small streamer. But I did have quite a few situations where people listened to my personal recommendations and the comments and views from other community veterans, and they basically, after hearing all those things, decided to purchase a game. We had recently one of our junior members from Scotland who was a bit displeased with Destiny 2 Year 1 game, and we discussed on air the positive elements of Destiny 2 Forsaken Complete Edition. He liked, first of all, what he heard. Secondly, he liked what he saw, because we were doing certain missions live on air. He purchased the game immediately and started playing it, and I'm pleased to say, within the last week, he was doing some very lengthy grinds on Solstice of Heroes armor, and he already has got the legendaries in his possession. So you could see how it worked. It was just an instant reaction to the high quality content here on the channel, to the discussion we've had with lots of our community members, recommending what to do, presenting it live on air. Everybody could see it, everybody could see that we were doing lots of interesting activities, and also that we were closely bonded as a community, and therefore this was a very big green light for this section of the game or this edition to be purchased. So you can see the opportunities are there. That is the way forward, and therefore all of us streaming those games will bring in many more members and indeed trigger off curiosity and interest of the many. So we already considered that the initial steps are being created by Bungie in order to build Destiny as a single evolving world. So, and Luke Smith said, and we are doing all this while cranking on a bunch of the system changes we talked about, and we'll continue to talk about them as we head into the Shadow Keep. So this is what's going to be happening in the autumn. Right? The care and feeding of the RPG, add depth, improve customization. So he says, we want to give people who love the RPG aspect of Destiny, like many of us, more stats and depth on the character sheet to sink their teeth into. We want to give players more agency over how they look. We also want armor to have that deep pursuit players that people love about Destiny, which brings the victory of finding the perfect tool. Let's talk about armor, part 1, mod stats and trade-offs. In order to allow players to independently pursue gameplay mods and further customize their Guardian fashion, a lot of work's been done to update armor for this fall, the autumn, right? We've refactored a number of the stats in the game, we've overhauled the UI, and we've begun to separate capabilities from aesthetics. Time out. Before I go on, I want to interject. It seems like some comments from part 1 around MTX are being misconstrued. Maybe I wasn't clear enough, maybe it felt too ambiguous. Let me try to clear this up before we get into the armor. Destiny has and will continue to have weapons, armor, ghosts, ships, sparrows, and shaders. And you can earn all of those from activities to prove to people looking at your character that you did the thing, whatever that thing is. I beat the raid a bunch, I earned Iron Banner gear, I played a ton of Crucible, I wanted to gather rain in my shoulder pads, so I played Gambit a ton, I made a sweet set of Astra Shaman gear at the rune table, I farmed that strike of the Mindbender roll that makes people rage, etc, etc. So let me be crystal clear. That is not changing. We are keeping it. What we are doing with the new armor system is saying, find the perks you want. Basically, they're not going to be automated. Find the armor that you want from the mega list of currently available in Destiny 2 armor. And we know that the list is certainly a mega list. The number of items to pick up are almost infinite. And pursue that armor to get the element stats you want to combine them to make a Guardian. So you can pick up any weapon, upgrade it, and then customize it. That is the way forward, right? All the armor and all the weapons and vehicles and all of the other bits will have to be worked for. Remember that. Nothing is going to be given to you for free. For free in terms of, you doing nothing and acquiring all the goodies. You will not have to pay any money for it, but you have to work through the in-game activities in order to get to that level, in order to get those rewards. Destiny also has an MTX store that houses things like sparrows, ships, emotes, ghosts, holograms, weapon and universal ornaments. The items in that store rotate and can be purchased with silver or bright dust. So this fall, silver or bright dust, and starting this fall, bright dust is just another in-game currency that you can earn by completing bounties instead of buying a bunch of engrams and sharding them to generate dust. So this is significantly different. This is basically reworking the entire system of Eververse store. No more purchases for dollars, that means real life dollars, but you are going to be grinding various bounties and activities in order to get this in-game currency, and this currency is going to be bright dust. So remember that in order to make sure that all is ready, you have to do your clear up in the inventory and make sure that you are doing everything as advised by Bungie in order not to lose some of the items or some of the currencies, and all of that is to happen as Shadowkeep emerges on the 1st of October. In Shadowkeep there are armor sets, weapons, ghosts, ships and sparrows coming from the destinations and activities. So, time in, back to armor. So Luke Smith says, we started out by looking at what period in Destiny's history was a good starting place for evolving the stat game. We felt like it was the Taken King or Rise of Iron. And what principles were guiding our new designs, we want to separate gameplay and aesthetics to grant more agency over both. I agree with that. It's very important to keep those two separate, because sometimes, aesthetics could be overtaking and we really are interested in high quality gameplay. There was a deep dive stream about this topic on August the 14th, which we watched the other day, but let's recap some of the high level points. Armor now has an energy meter ranging from 1 to 10, so this is what we saw in that broadcast. And you can use materials and currency to level up the energy value on a given piece of armor. So you can be using materials and currency to basically raise it on any piece of armor. Mods have both an energy cost and an elemental affinity. In order for mod to be equipped, your armor needs to have rolled the correct element and have enough energy available. For instance, Hand Cannon Reloader costs 3 void energy to equip, so your armor must have rolled void and have 3 energy available in order to use it. It's going to be a lengthy grind as well. Fundamentally, this means we have additional vectors for tuning things like mods. We could tune the effect, and how much speed does the reload effect add is the question. We could tune the cost, how expensive is this mod to socket. We could add mods to the pool for a different affinity, etc, etc. When you acquire a mod from the game, it's like getting a perk that you can put on all armor. So once you find enhanced Hand Cannon Reloader from Pinnacle Activities, Enhanced perks will come only from pinnacle activities. You'll be able to socket that mod into the new armor that meets its criteria. The mod is not consumed and can be socketed in and out at a small cost. So remember, all the mods are going to be staying with us. They will not disappear. If you get rid of the weapon, the mods will stay with you in your inventory. The mods are not universally applied. The mods are weapon armor specific. So that's also very important to remember. Here are the elements of armor that can roll randomly. Elemental activity rolls between Solar, Arc and Void. Armor starting energy value can roll randomly as well. They can be all leveled to 10. Stats all roll random values. Intellect, discipline, strength, mobility, resilience and recovery. Like in the Taken King, the stats will have breakpoints that decrease the cooldowns. Yes, your Sparrow now shows up on the character sheet. Today in Destiny 2, the base recharge rates convert to a stat value of 30 in the new system. Getting to 30 isn't too difficult. Though of course some people will ride the RNG roller coaster to get the start. They really want to 30. By chasing a good stat roll, you can achieve the fast recharge rates available in the game today without needing to use mods. It is totally possible to put together a 100 intellect build, 100 is the cap, without socketing a single mod. Some of the new mods will provide 10 plus to be a given stat to help you show up the stats you personally care about. But that specialization may come with a price. Because you've specialized in intellect, you may be making trade-offs for other stats, e.g. grenades come back slow or something. It really depends on your stat rolls. But if your grenades come back slower, then maybe that demolitionist perk that you've been dismantling would start to look appealing. So, we made a bunch of armor in Destiny, and we didn't want to leave behind any of the armor that players can currently pursue. So we've also updated every new drop in the game to integrate and leverage the new system. This means if you want to go back to, and get the small Titan shoulder pads from Sloan on Titan, you can go chase a roll of them that uses the new system. A number of the current mods will not work in the new armor that is dropping this fall, but those mods are not being depreciated this time. For example, your super mods on your current armor will still work, but super mods cannot be socketed into the new armor. You could socket your armor with intellect mods instead though. We did this because we think the evolutions we're making to armor are a great step for Destiny over the long haul, so we want you to decide when you migrate to them. So part 2 is the armor migration. Amplifying depth and choice via the new stat system ushers in some changes to armor. We converted all current Destiny armor to use the stats, so cooldown durations will change as we migrate to the new system. You'll be able to see the cooldown timers of your legacy armor when Shadowkeep patch goes live. So that will be in October. Here's what we don't want to happen. You're feeling like the game depreciated my old armor and perks, and that time I spent playing Forsaken and its annual pass content was a waste, since all of the perks on the armor got turned off while Bungie forcibly migrated to this new system. That is not going to happen. So here's how we hope this is going to work. If you are a pretty hardcore player, and we know that all of us here really are, and have set of armor today with perfect for your perks, like a fully loaded enhanced gun you like to set of perks, I think you're going to keep using them for a while. I certainly expect the world first rate teams are going to go in with Forsaken era gear that they infused up throughout the Shadowkeep power progression. So weeks go by, players approach the Shadowkeep power cap and start finding mods with enhanced perks. We think that's where our most invested progression chasing players will start to move over. Players can totally mix and match between new armor and the armor they have today as well. For players without perfectly rolled gear, we think the transition to the new armor system is one they'll make pretty quickly. In our long-form playtesting, our internal teams, not Velveeta, these are other intern players and playtesters. Sidebar, I'm real disappointed I missed out on the craftiest opportunity in part 1. Good catch. Reddit. They found that they've used the current armor on their main Guardian, but rapidly switched to armor 2.0 on their less played alts I should say. Remember Live Journal? Let's do it. With hard play, it's a crude mix of fashion, function, and economic efficiency. I rarely invest resources in an item until it's an item I know I want to use. I don't infuse very often until I need a specific piece or role for particular activity. I do not have a favorite class. I play all 3. I tend to rotate them based on what is more effective and needed for group play at any given moment. You see this? This is basically a very, very important statement. I do not have a favorite class. I play all three. I tend to rotate them based on what is most effective and use it for group play in a given moment. The reason we have three different characters with separate perks and abilities exactly to do with that. It's all about that team activity. And if you are working and building all three of your characters, if you bring them to the top level, 750 or 800 or whatever the levels are going to be, you are going to be able to use any of those according to the team needs. So for instance, you usually play Hunter, let's say, and your team will need Titan. You will be already capable enough with your Titan and proficient in order to join and basically present your skills and your knowledge to the team in order to be used as a major asset. So that is very important to remember. Therefore, I invite all of our community members to be working and building all three of their characters. Do not resort to just one of them. Do not resort just to one small selection of weapon and armor, but try to be as diverse as possible. Become familiar with all that is on offer, and then basically always think within that team effort level. Think about the team. Think about what you can do for the team. You know what JFK said. Do not think, ask not what your country will do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, we can sort of rephrase this and say, ask not what your team will do for you, but certainly ask what you can do for your team. So that is basically the most important bit for all of us to remember. And he says, I tend to rotate them based on what is most effective or needed for group play in a given moment. I personally love it when the game gets hard, and I feel as if we would benefit from more challenges. I really liked how contest mode enforced an action game's skill component on world first attempts. I totally have my favorite weapon archetypes, and I get really frustrated as a player when there is an archetype I feel like I absolutely have to use all the time, because it is far and away the most efficient thing. This is because I do, when playing content that matters, have to be using the most efficient thing. This creates some interesting discussions with the team at work when they create something that is super fun but isn't actually efficient to use. I would totally mess around and get a triple-double in patrol with a weird weapon, but the weird stuff isn't getting used to in a Crown of Sorrows group early in a session. Even then, I want to get through that content as quickly as I can. My characters generally look hideous on the climb, and then I start to make them look good once again. I get to the end game, and since I'm colorblind, my friends think my characters look pretty hideous in the end game too. I think for me, I'll shelve my nicely rolled items, delete everything that I wouldn't wear raiding, start using the equipment while I power up, and find some looks that I personally like, and then when it's time to go on jacket quest, I'll infuse up my well-rolled raiding equipment. Back to what I started this with. We want the transition to ultimately be your choice, one that you decide to make when you want to make it. Maybe you're ready to start tinkering with stats, maybe you really want to start combining universal ornaments and currently dropping armor to up your fashion game, or maybe, like me, you'll do both at the same time, but hopefully with less mocking from your so-called friends. The pursuit of power increasing play agency. We like the act of chasing power and stats for your build to be something that you have a bit more agency over, not a full-blown thing, rather than dipping the toes into a bunch of different activities, but certainly less restrictive than it's been in the past. I think I agree with this, because you will have certain weapons that work better in Gambit, and also those that will be more proficient in the Crucible, and then you have the third lot which are equipped and ideal for many PvE activities. So you have to be having, in fact, within your mindset, 3 separate loadouts, and each one of those might be tailored to a particular activity that you will be pursuing. So that is absolutely astonishing, and think about it, there could be anything from that, 3 dozen weapons per slot, so that's 36 weapons and armor, and that's really absolutely incredible. And we've also had a long-standing challenge in Destiny of making XP matter, and it feels like a real growth opportunity for us to dig into something we wanted to look at for a while. So this section discusses power and the changes coming to it in the fall. Part 1. Battle sources, primes, and the world. Like I mentioned in part 1, the number of powerful sources in Destiny 2 ballooned during the annual past. We are curating down the sources in Shadowkeep. Our target is to get the number of powerful sources closer to Forsaken launch levels, because they felt they really excelled and maybe have overreached themselves in the seasons. In Forsaken, as you overleveled an activity, meaning your power gets higher than the activity, the activity rewards would become less valuable. The inverse was also true for being underleveled. In Shadowkeep, we've changed that. Instead, the system will advertise a consistent expected powerful reward, regardless of your power relative to it. Over the years, we've come to discuss several parts of Destiny in terms of short, medium, and long-term goals. In the simplest terms, short-term goals can be completed in a night or a week. Medium-term goals can take several weeks, and long-term goals can take anywhere from a season to several seasons. So listen to this. Long-term goals can take anywhere from a season to several seasons. So that means like 6 or 8 months. For some folks like me, getting good at a part of the game may take a lifetime. That is a personal mastery goal. So I think I have something in common with Mr. Smith, because for myself, remembering certain things or mastering them does take a long while. But you know what? Once I master them, I'm very, very good at it. We have to put this in perspective. You will have some people, we have several community members here, who are absolutely dedicated to Destiny. They don't play any other games but Destiny. And that's Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. They would have played this game alone for 6 years on the trot. That is not the case with myself and some other broadcasters, because obviously we're involved in video game industry. What we do is we play lots of different games. We have our favorites, we are dedicated to those, and in fact I have to say, ever since I started this channel, I've gone down the route of being very proficient in one game, so being absolutely dedicated just to one game alone. You know, I like diversity, I like getting to know a lot of different content, and I like stories. So I like watching and playing games for the story content, for the multiplayer, team-based effort activity, and therefore I remember lots of different sections from many different games. That is somewhat different to you know, what you will have with those members who are dedicated just to one game, because A, they're learning faster, B, they're focused just on one game, and C, they will want to be excelling in every single activity, becoming what you could say a master Jedi in that particular activity. And that's wonderful. And you know what, I've got several hundred people who are like that here within my community. So if you want to really learn, you can always ask them questions. You can always approach them at any given moment in time, either directly here through my broadcast or personally through whispers and you know, chat forums, and you will be able to receive the best possible advice. And also, the other thing, which is to everyone's benefit, is the vast majority of those friends are very helpful and dedicated when it comes to teaching others. So they really are like a master Jedi. They are teaching the skill basically to everyone who wants to learn, and they can do that here on my broadcast live on air, or they can do that outside of my broadcasting hour. So at any time, if you want to ask questions, you want to master a particular skill, ask, because I know from experience and our online gaming specifically what skills are applicable to a particular gamer, meaning some people are excelling in speedruns, others are excelling in competitive multiplayer. You know, the third lot of players are brilliant in doing the story missions and having the overall overview of anything to do with inventory and in-game mechanics. You will have also some gamers that are excellent in literally everything. So, you know, depending on what skill you want to enhance, you can just ask, and therefore I can direct you to a particular player. I'm very pleased to say that we've had maybe half a dozen people coming in and want to do some speedruns, and they want to learn tips and tricks on raiding Destiny 1. I do have one community member who actually broke a couple of world records on some of the raids, and I've sent those members to him, and all connected, and he was very, very pleased because he felt indeed like a master Jedi, and he taught them all those tips and tricks, and therefore my community members walked away with a lot more skill than what they previously had. So remember, our Twitch channels and broadcasting are all about interactivity, about bonding, about connecting and learning. We do not embrace hostility, toxicity, or negative competition. We are absolutely against it. And my channel rules, as well as those on Twitch, are sanctioned against any form of activity that would be enhancing or boosting some of those. We want to be attentive, friendly and kind, polite, civilized, educated, and we want always to be there to help others. Remember that. We are running a true and proper charity over here. So, Luke Smith says a very, very lengthy statement, I have to say. I haven't even gone through half of it. We think reaching maximum power can be a medium-term goal for power progression-focused players, for those players who hold pursuit of stats and someday trying out new builds in their long-term goal. I say someday because while we are taking our first steps in build crafting with the new armor mod framework this fall, I think we are going to learn a bunch of what we are making a viable build in Destiny requires. You're going to surprise us with crazy creative things we've never seen once this is live. We are all looking forward to it. Prime engrams. We're doing some minor housekeeping in prime engrams. They'll begin dropping once you hit 900, and you'll accumulate charges for them as you make your way from 750 to 900. We've increased the number of prime engrams you can earn in a given week and rebalance the value of each one to account for the increase in volume. World drops. As far as contributing to your power level, world drops often feel like a waste. To get away from that, we made some changes to allow these drops to help players progress beyond the soft cap. World drops in Shadowkeep will have a chance to drop at a player's current power level. Here's an example. A player has an overall power level of 912. Gloves are the lowest slot at 906. Player might open a legendary engram and receive 912 gloves, an increase of 6 power. So you can see the powering up is, I guess, slow down somewhat. You're not having a jump from 912 to 970. It's just like literally point by point, making it a lengthier grind. We're making this change because we feel like the world legendaries are a little undervalued at the moment. So this isn't some grand accelerant for power progression, but rather a little quality of life experiment to reward your free roaming adventures or random legendary activity drops. Part 2. Preparing for new light. Well, this is what I'm very excited about. I really want to hear more about new light. One of the essential parts of new light is crushing the barriers between friends. Today, one of those barriers is the power level. To players, power level can mean we have different goals, so we do not play together. A new character starting at 10 power would naturally feel that they have to play all this other content, and in many hours you can play with a friend who recommended this game to you. That does not sound very sweet, right? It's like telling someone to play MOBA and then saying we'll play with you in 100 hours when you've learned to the last hit. This is what my friend said to me. Do you have bad friends? As I'm writing this, I'm starting to wonder. He's taking this to an extreme. We really don't experience that here on the channel. We played with lots of players who were, grossly underpowered, and we were here, obviously, providing them with a forum through which they can learn and level up and do everything necessary. And, that altogether has been very, very beneficial. And at the moment, I'm presently working on my armor, and I'm doing that together with other community members who are doing exactly the same. We're all doing the same season, which is basically Solstice of Heroes season, a short season lasting 4 weeks, presenting us with those challenges in order to get our majestic armor. And therefore we are all kind of helping each other and supporting each other's effort, as you would have seen during this week, as we were doing that literally on every single day of this week. I think he's taking this to an extreme. It may be that some people who are more inclined towards some competitive gameplay, they don't want to be in the same arena with, let's say, people who are on 220 or 230 power level. But I think we really should not focus on that sort of mindset. We are here to help, enable, and basically train other people on the best possible ways to which they can enhance the game. And Luke Smith says, this is not what we want in New Light. We want to get new players and veterans colliding quickly. After Black Armory, made a deliberate choice to try to do this with each season. Both Season of the Drifter and Season of Opulence had bounties to boost up players' power levels. With New Light and Shadowkeep being bigger moments of collision, we are continuing that philosophy, but optimizing the mechanics to fit the moment. We are setting the power this fall to 750 for both returning and new players. We want you to be together when Shadowkeep opens. Here's what this means. Every single item in the game is being raised to power floor of 750 when Shadowkeep and New Light launch. Every item in your inventory is going to automatically jump to 750. It's like a free global burst of infusion for all players. So listen to this. Every single item in the game being raised to power level floor of 750 when Shadowkeep and New Light launch. Every item in inventory involved is going to automatically jump to 750. So they'll be customizable to 750, I believe. Or does that mean that they will just pop up as 750. I don't think so. Probably we are going to be able to infuse them to that level. Which means that right now you should stop spending currency to infuse the gear sets or that C-tier of weapons that you're keeping around that you're keeping around until the patch notes, just in case they are going to be good after the changes. There are many buffs coming, and it's very tempting to spoil a bunch of them, but I said this wasn't going to be the patch notes. Part 3, more power, more problems. We originally had this as Mo instead of more, but I changed it upon the sad realization that there is an entire generation of players who missed out on Biggie, Puffy and Macy in the Bad Boy era. Yes, it's kind of weird that I changed this and left the Highlander reference in, especially when neither is T for teen. I'm the first to say it, raising the power of all players globally is indicative of a greater problem. It's real weird that someone will boot up New Light for the first time and immediately be 750. So it does look like there will be upgrading weapons to something called in Destiny 1. Has been asked to do a lot over the years. For a time in Destiny 1, it was one of the only things players had to pursue. In Destiny 1, Power and Light meant something in terms of achievement, but that badge of honor had its problems. Forever 29 via raid boots, etc. Destiny 1 put the light power level over the player's head and drove players to raid and raise it. Over time, we gave players other paths to raising the light power Nightfall Nam banner. We took light off the nameplate and made it 3 digits into the Taken King, trying to turn light into something more like a 3-digit item level. But without the stat budgeting assigned to it, where the stats dictate a true character power. At Destiny 2 launch, we shortened the power climb, oversimplified the game, made it too easy to get items, focused on bringing new players in, and hoped the players would pursue looks alone as their endgame. And we were completely wrong, while we continued to build features like what would become Forsaken Triumphs. So, if I understand it correctly, he's saying they wanted to really streamline and simplify the game, as some community members complained about how difficult, grindy and complicated Destiny 1 was, and this was indeed a shot in the dark. They were literally just responding to the minority, but I'm not really convinced, you know. I think this is a bit of a red herring. I think they really wanted to change direction, and if you are looking at what he said, he's indicating that your proper fully developed game would start with Forsaken, and Forsaken was to be in any case your third, or is it fourth, your third DLC, so it will come out 12 months later. So, you know, I don't really think that's the case. Maybe that was the plan, but still, everyone complained about how easy Destiny 2 appeared to be, and also it had, what you could say, lack of content. There wasn't the entire bunch of activities there for people to do, and I remember walking through various open world areas and not re-encountering any enemies, and that just felt really quite different compared to Destiny 1. That was not popular. In fact, we had many people popping in still in the recent weeks and months indicating that that was still persisting, but actually it wasn't if you were indeed in possession of those seasons. And during that period, we also democratized power, so that players didn't need to raid to play Nightfall to reach maximum power. They could kind of just do it weekly. Forsaken introduced gold sources onto the map, and over the course of the year, the number of powerful sources continued to increase. So see, power has a lot to do with the amount of damage players can both deal and receive. In fact, it's the biggest factor in it. It's also been the thing to pursue. Our gameplay specialists, the roles where dedicated Destiny players come in and participate in long-term playtesting with the imported from home character, frequently point out that they can't engage with a number of parts of the game till they've completed the power climb. Over the years, we made the power climb shorter and shorter. We made it easier and easier to reach maximum power. We also introduced things like triumphs, titles and collections to provide additional stuff to do as the prestige of power waned. In Shadowkeep, we are trying something a little different. First, we are introducing a seasonal artifact unique and thematic to each season. As the artifact levels up, it can do a few things. First, it becomes the source of seasonal artifact mods. Unique mods that can be equipped only during that artifact season. Those mods may be brand new experimental mods or powerful mods with reduced energy cost, enabling players to experiment further in the build crafting space. Secondly, This seasonal artifact can award players a power bonus, but that bonus is not applied to gear, nor does it increase the power of future drops, but instead to all of your characters. This is meant to give players who can't or don't want to play pinnacle activities a seasonal party power. This way, even if a player doesn't play the Raid, Iron Banner or the Redacted, they can still have a high power value for the season. Leveling the artifact to raise your power is meant to be seasonal character growth. Each season will have a new artifact with new mods that change how you play, and the power bonus will reset. You know, this is going to be a contested part, because what people liked previously was that you had to be doing raids in order to reach certain heights in the game. And I think in here they're saying there's going to be something for everyone. So if you were pursuing Gambit maybe more than raids or vice versa, you still will be achieving. Well, maybe. We'll have to see how the community members are going to react. I actually agree with the model where there's something for everyone, because, you know, even technically people are having slow internet speed. There's no point of forcing them to do PvP because they'll be suffering a lot of bruising due to technical inefficiency, and we know that really. So being able to engage for a bit and then pursue the activity, which really works perfectly like PvE, can really work very well within that new system. And I think the gamers and the players worldwide will have to accept it. We want to have everyone here who is going to be saying, well, we actually are enjoying all these activities and we feel that there is something for everyone, so we can pursue what we love doing the most, because the number of choices are really, I wouldn't say infinite, but certainly very, very great. In addition to curating the list of powerful sources, Shadowkeep will also introduce pinnacle power sources. These sources are the only way to earn gear drops above power 950 in Season 8. Here's the thinking. Pinnacle reward sites can award players above 950. This is a way of reclaiming a little bit of character. Power prestige that the initial D1 Destiny 1 power climb created. If you inspect a player and see the gear's 960, you know they've done a bunch of pinnacle activities. It's worth mentioning that as you raise your power via pinnacle activities, other powerful reward sites will continue to drop powerful side grades. All of this said, power in Destiny 2 is still imperfect. We are making some adjustments to it, and this is going to be happening for Shadowkeep. Things like seasonal power bonuses and pinnacle activities awarding pinnacle power. But when we look into the future, we feel like the power system may benefit from a rework further down the road. There's real potential in creating more agency for players, figuring out if power should be prestigious or not, and taking on the challenge of how to keep players relatively close together season after season while still allowing them to make progress. Here's something I missed from Destiny 1. Filling bars on my items and using materials to level items. Even though I ended up with more Ascendant and Radiant materials than I ever could have needed, the existence of those materials meant the hunt for powerful rolls could go on longer. I think wanting and needing materials is a good thing, as long as you know what you can do to pursue that material. I'm glad we are getting a little more of that back into the Destiny with Shadowkeep. Need Master of a course? Well, we didn't have a very good answer for that much of the year. Lesson learned. Stay tuned to Bungie.net for the third installment of Director's Cut. It focuses on the action part of massive multiplayer online action game. Think combat and PvP with a bonus section on the evolving world. Coming to Destiny this fall. See you soon, Luke Smith. And you know what? This has been almost like an infinite evaluation. And I have to say, I'm delighted to have come to the end of this description, but a lot of food for thought, many different descriptions and interesting tips. I find it generally, I don't know whether you agree with me, when I watch tutorials and when I read such articles, the number of facts, figures and the volume of the information is almost overwhelming. I can't really remember all of it, but to summarize, the game is being reworked. They are bringing in some elements from Destiny 1. They will want to make sure that the weapons and armor are customizable, and we are going to be able to do that through a variety or plethora of activities in Destiny 2, through seasons and all other kinds of quests. I'm particularly excited to hear that we are also to receive 750 armor with ease, and when we start New Light, we'll start with the top level. So, let's wait and see how this is to unfold. There are likely to be some comments of concern coming from the community, because if indeed at the point of new light being launched, all the weaponry and all the armor in our vault instantly gets infused to 750. It will feel like a gift, but on the other hand, some gamers may feel it is unfair because they would have spent 2 years building their kit, whilst the other guys would come in and acquire such items with the top level without any work done. Let's wait and see how the community is to react. But overall, a very, very interesting, in-depth article about all that is to follow in Shadowkeep, and not just in the next DLC. I should say, not just in the next chapter of Destiny, but literally for many months and years to come. They are going to be upholding the mission statement that indicates that this game is basically an ever-evolving world, which is going to be integrating all elements of Destiny into one. And you could see how some of the old elements of Destiny 1 are being brought into this world, and I really applaud them for that. It's absolutely delightful to have that before us. Right, I have to say, after reading all of this, my brain is aching slightly somewhat. While doing this, I'll just put myself in the orbit, have a short break of about 10 minutes, and then we'll crack on with what we really need to do today, and that is to upgrade our Solstice of Heroes armor to the legendary level. So Warlock Human Male, DRBMiller, it is going to be. My power level is probably within range about 725 or so, but I've been using some weapons in the recent missions that I've found to be most effective, and therefore it has been somewhat reduced. So what I'll do is I'll just get the best quality weapons on to make sure what light level I have. Yeah, you can see even those are stronger. Okay, so 687, 722 is probably the strongest. In here we have 725, 727, yeah, I was right. And then in here we would also have 726, 721, 724, 725. Yeah, so we are talking about roughly the same. Okay, so before we have a short break, what I also will do is I'll do a bit of inventory, because I've not really looked at my triumphs, and that definitely does need... No, it's not here. I beg your pardon. But I'll take my short break and then we'll carry on very, very shortly.